Creating a payroll pathway for your martial arts school. All right, so in the last couple of videos, we talked about some really important things. First, we talked about creating an organizational chart. Then we talked about creating positional agreements. Now we're going to talk about a next step, and that is creating a pathway for payroll. In other words, once you know the positions that you want to have in your business, once you know what those positions are responsible for, then the next question becomes, what do I actually pay people? And more importantly, when can I actually afford to hire them? Because this is where most martial arts school owners get stuck. They either hire too early and struggle financially, or they hire too late and they paint themselves into a corner. It's a trap. And that's exactly why someone ends up owning a job instead of owning a business. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna give you guys a simple framework. This framework will help you build your payroll structure. The 28% payroll rule. Inside most service-based businesses, payroll tends to land somewhere between 25 to 30% of revenue. For martial arts schools, a really clean number is 28% of gross profit. Now, let me clarify something important here. This does not include your pay as the owner. This is strictly payroll that you pay your team. So, if your school generates $100,000 in gross profit, that means you roughly have around $28,000 available for payroll. So that's it. That's your staffing budget. Now, once you understand that number, something really powerful happens. You stop guessing. You stop hiring emotionally, and you start making strategic decisions based on math. Why most school owners never do this? Most martial arts school owners never look at payroll this way. They first hire someone because they feel overwhelmed, or maybe they just hire someone because a student asks for a job, or they hire someone because they think it'll make them grow. I know, I've been there. But what they never actually calculate is what can the business afford? And what can end up happening is the payroll creeps up too high. You, the owner, starts to feel squeezed, and then you start to think, I can't afford to pay people. But that's not the real problem. The problem is that there was never a real payroll structure to begin with. Start with your numbers. Before you ever even think about hiring someone, you need to know your numbers. You need to know things like, what is your monthly revenue? What are your fixed expenses? What is your actual profit? Because once you know these numbers, you can start to develop a payroll plan. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say your school generates around $20,000 a month in revenue. Over the course of a year, that's $240,000. Now, if we apply that 28% payroll rule, that means that you can roughly afford $67,000 a year in payroll. And here's where you can start asking smarter questions. Instead of saying, can I afford to hire someone? You start asking the question, how can I allocate this 28% payroll budget? And that, my friends, is a completely different conversation. What if you're a small school? Now, some of you watching this might be thinking, Josh, my school isn't big enough for that yet. And that's okay. I was there, I know. Most small martial arts schools can't afford the 28% payroll structure yet. But that's not the point. The point of this is to know your target. You need to know the system that you're growing into. Early on, the payroll might be part-time instructors, paid by the hour. But as the school slowly starts to grow, you start filling in those roles on your org chart. Assistant instructor, senior instructor, program director, managers. And eventually, you build a team that helps you to run your business without you having to be there every single day. The break-even moment. This is a really important moment that happens in every martial arts school. I call it the breakthrough moment. This is when your revenue finally covers rent, utilities, software, equipment, marketing, and basic operations. Once your school reaches break-even, every additional dollar becomes powerful because now that money can go towards hiring help, improving systems, increasing marketing, and simply growing the school. And this is usually when hiring the right person can unlock the next level of growth. Hiring is what transforms your school. A lot of martial arts school owners believe that working hard is what grows your martial arts school. If I can just teach more classes, add in more hours, then my school will grow. But guys, this is what I gotta say. The truth is, building a school, you can't do it alone. You can't. You can only do so much by yourself. You will plateau, and then any increased effort after that will simply burn you out. Maybe that's why you're watching this. But here's the thing, when you start hiring the right people, you stop being the technician doing everything, and you start becoming the leader who builds an organization. And that, my friends, is the shift between owning a job and owning a business. Start planning now. Even if you're not ready to hire yet, you need to start developing this payroll structure now. Because when your school does grow and now you're ready to hire someone, the last thing you want to do is make an emotional decision. You need to already know the following: what roles exist, what those roles are responsible for, and what those roles should be paid. Remember, we're executing a plan. If you need help with some of that, go back and watch some of my previous videos. So what are we going to cover next? Well, now that you understand how to create a payroll structure, the next step is another critical one. Because hiring isn't just about money. It's about finding the right people for the role. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about how to hire the right people for the job that needs to be done. Because remember this, the right person for the wrong role is the wrong person. So make sure you're subscribed, because in the next video, we'll be covering how to identify, screen, recruit all the right people to fill all those roles in your martial arts school. And if you need help with anything, please feel free to reach out. We'll see you guys on the next video.